Hey everyone, CJ here with the CATA Secondary School Podcast with an exciting announcement about the CATA Small Grant Program. Colorado Athletic Trainers Association is proud to support our members with small grants to help them excel in their work. Each year, we award 4 $200 grants to deserving athletic trainers. You can use these grants for durable medical equipment, supplies, or continuing education units. All you need to do to be eligible is be an NATA member who resides in Colorado. The application deadline for this fall is September 31st, so be sure to apply for a chance to get to the support you need. The application deadline for the spring is February 28th. For all the details and to submit your application, head over to the CATA website at coloradoata.org/small-grant-program. Good luck! Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the CATA Secondary School Podcast. I'm CJ Rosenbro alongside Ryan Hart, and we are joined by a couple of the committee members on our group. We have Katie Wallace, Moto, Celti, and Megan. We are talking about AT advocacy today, so I'm going to throw it straight to Katie because I know you have some strong opinions on this. I know we all do because we're all part of the CATA committee. So Katie, thoughts on AT advocacy?
Here's my statement. I love everything this committee is doing, and every time I get off of these specific meetings, whether they're in person or not, I feel very motivated to help the other athletic trainers, and it makes me feel good about being an athletic trainer when I meet with this group specifically.
Involvement is so important in getting that out to listeners and to coworkers and all of that, that I feel the same way as Katie. When I get off these calls, I'm charged. After the CHASA Summit, I'm like, okay, here are the things I want to do. Here's how I want to make impact where I am. And I think that coming from us who are, we've been in the profession for a while, we've served in different ways, putting that out to people of like, this is where we get reinvigorated. And that's why it's so important for you to find some way to get involved.
I feel like every single committee always has the same goal, and that's to take care of each other, make it better for, everybody that's around them and everybody that's in the same area and the people coming up. And I think for every committee, so us being able to do that here and giving a platform for people who maybe don't think that they have that voice or that are trying to figure out ways to have a voice in their select areas, that no matter where we go or what we do, and if this is just kind of a free-for-all committee at this point where it's like we're going to cover everything and we're going to get everything, I think everybody can take away from that and having that support and just that community.
The reason these meetings go so well is we are a like-minded group of people who just wanted to make moves. And like I said, I got mad. Gosh, I was mad when we were in the bottom 50. We were like almost at 50. And they were like, Colorado's bad at sports medicine. And I was going to lose my mind. So if you are one of those people who was mad and you're like, but I'm not bottom 50. I'm not bottom 50 of the United States on what I'm doing. Like, get on a committee, get with your like-minded people and start making moves. Because the only thing that changed with this committee was we were action takers. We weren't going to get together and just complain. And I'm the worst. I get on and just rant to you guys every meeting we have. I'm like, let me tell you about what happened this week. But then we shift gears.
A lot of editing that goes on in post.
And it's okay, well, how do we fix that? And then the last year we spent having every meeting we've had about advocacy because I was advocating for myself. I was on my way to a school board meeting. I was on my way to meet with the school district. I was on my way to meet with my employers about how we're going to improve X, Y, and Z contracts. And so then we sit in these meetings, and every time I go away from it going, gosh, if only people would hear what we have to say. So if you need to know what to say, come to the meetings, get involved. You'll hear everybody tell you what the appropriate steps are and how to do them. And here we are just trying to do that with a podcast, but then to move on to the next level is our plan. And how do we make the nation recognize, nope, Colorado's not bottom 50. We're actually sitting up here pretty high because we have so many motivated people trying to push the state forward.
Yeah, I will say before Ryan, sorry, I'm gonna jump ahead of you. I will say, like, it is more time to join in with the CATA and volunteer. It is a volunteer, but we all got into this profession because we're passionate about it. However we got into it, we're all passionate about it. The hardest thing to do is get started. Once you're on it, the ball just starts rolling. Like, I think it was a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years, that it was right before CATA symposium in Golden. So I think it was like a year and a half ago. Like we started, I just came into a meeting, and from there on it's like boom, and now I'm putting so much time into it, and it's fun. It reinvigorates me, like Katie said. Like I'm refreshed. The hardest part is saying, yeah, I want to spend some of my time doing this. And then once you're on the committee, it is so much fun, and it's fun to make an impact. It's really cool to have your voice be heard and be influential and have a say in where our profession's going and help move us from that last place up, because we're continually going up. So just hop in. It is so much fun.
Absolutely, CJ. You know, that teed me up very well, because what I was going to actually do is turn it over to some of our newer add-ons to the committee, Megan and Moto, and just kind of let the listeners get their perspective as not our newest members, but they've been around long enough to actually give this perspective. Yes, it is a little bit extra onto your plate. Athletic trainers are busy. Nobody's going to argue that. But advocating for the profession, and this being on a committee is one way of doing that. Is it an extreme amount of time and dedication to be on a committee to advocate for your profession, or is it 100% worth the small amount of time and dedication?
And think of it as part of your job.
Yeah.
What's gonna make you more money? Spending
Absolutely.
that extra hour at work trying to get like something extra done, or hopping on a committee and helping out with something that's going to advance your profession, which will then advance how you're seen, which will then advance your salary. Like, just think about it that way. If you're already putting in more hours after, like, this is not much extra, and
Yeah.
it's gonna advance you a lot more.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a win-win situation for me to be able to just having that recording of few podcast episode before this, just getting more information, just having the debate or getting the information that each one had, and that gathers and just ramp up and be able to have more information and knowledge in your hands. That's one big like takeaway that like I'm enjoying the time that we meet and create these opportunity for others, but also for myself as well, to be able to have better service for our student athletes. That's one thing. And also joining the community, and as you spend more time in the meetings, things roll by itself. And I feel like timing of life was like each one has different timing, and felt like kind of not getting on to the early, profession, anything like that. But right after you graduate and you coming into this profession, like you feel like nothing to share. You do have the knowledge of the education that you had, and be able to provide those information to whoever you serve. But at the same time, it's intimidating to be on a committee at that point.
Yeah.
And a couple of years in, and yeah, like you feel like, oh, I might be able to be part of that.
Absolutely. I mean, that was very well said, Moto. You know, whether if you're a early emerging professional or you're a seasoned athletic trainer, like most of those on this call, Moto's absolutely right. You have insight. You know, you have insight of whatever program you just graduated from, or you have insight from your years of service as an athletic trainer, and that definitely covered. One of our important talking points for this episode of AT Advocacy was getting involved, and we'll circle back and let Megan have a chance to throw her voice in as well. here in just a second. But there are a few other topics that we want to talk about when it comes to athletic training advocacy, and I'm interested to hear the groups. I'm interested to hear the group's responses to this. The first one I want to talk about is the athletic model versus the medical model. Athletic trainers reporting to a coach or an AD, and um, how that is creating conflicts of interest.
Well, I was thinking, I'm pretty sure I listed those two types of um not protocols. What's my word? Outlines. The
I know what you're
AD
trying to say. I
oversight.
can't think of it.
Thank you. Words. God, you guys.
Yeah.
Shh.
Yeah.
Remember
Probably
when
not
my
good for
brain
being on
just
a
shut off that
podcast.
one time? I know. God. The models. They're
There we go.
models.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I think I was the one who talked about the two different types of models and who oversees you. And it's really important, if we are healthcare providers, that we are overseen by someone in healthcare who
Yes.
understands the role you're playing. Because if your oversight is from an athletic director or a coach or the athletic department or an HR person or whoever that role is, they have to understand the legal and other healthcare ramifications that our decisions have. It's a risk management standpoint. It's a safety standpoint. If they don't understand why the medical decision is being made, then you're hindered to do your job. So it's really advocating for yourself to be overseen by someone who, either, if it's the athletic director, they better give you full rights and responsibilities and they will just back you up on the decision you make. If it is another healthcare provider, then you have someone who understands why your decision making process happens that way. So I think that's my biggest takeaway is, in today's state of athletic training, your oversight needs to be either you yourself, and gosh, I hope you have others to back you up, or it needs to be another healthcare professional who says this is how you're doing stuff. And it's why we need physician standing orders. I can't voice that enough. You got to have the standing physician behind you who says you are allowed to do X, Y, and Z by your clinical expertise, or you're not. And you better stand behind that, because it should not be mom and dad or a coach saying that my kid's allowed to do this because I said so, or our kids are allowed to say this, because it doesn't help us. And so I think following the correct model matters now. And I think it just needs to be a healthcare model.
Absolutely, well said, Katie. And I feel like most every athletic trainer is going to agree with that stance. And unfortunately, over the years since the formation of athletic training, I think that the way it got started was it was a little bit lost. We weren't initially viewed as healthcare providers, back in the 50s when athletic training came to be a profession. But we have changed as a profession, and I don't think times have really caught up and changed in terms of who oversees us. And I think the more athletic trainers who strongly advocate and seek out their own medical directors, even if you're like myself and have been in the private secondary school setting for X number of years, I really didn't even leave it up to my employer, which was the private school, as to who would be my supervisor from a medical stance. I just said, hey, we're going to need a medical director, and I'm going to go out and find that person. And I did. I reached out into my community. I found the person who I thought I would work well with, and I introduced them to my athletic director. Hey, here's our medical director. You got any questions for him? If not, he's going to be overseeing me from the athletic side. The school will oversee me from the employment side, but not from the medical side. And it was well defined and well understood, just like Katie mentioned, that the athletic director, even though they're overseeing me from an employment side, when it comes to the medical things, they do not have a voice. They are to back me up, and they are to fall in line, so to speak, when it comes to medical decisions. And that, thankfully, I was able to get that wrote into my contract, but it only came because I advocated for that. being wrote into my contract. The AD is my supervisor from a employee performance stance, not from a medical stance, and they're to fall in line with medical guidance. Megan, do you have a follow-up on that?
Yeah, just to kind of add to and kind of piggyback off of what Katie and Ryan have said about that, having the physician standing orders. I have definitely, and I've been at my school for a significant amount of time. I am, I feel like I have created some really great relationships, and people understand who I am and what I do. I know that's not the case at every place. But having that physician who can back you when, and again, it kind of goes to Ryan's point of just the general population not understanding that we are healthcare professionals. That I've gotten some parents who want to argue with me about, like, oh, well, no, I don't think that that's, or I've got this note from so-and-so that cleared them. When you have a physician who stands behind you and says, nope, we're backing you. And when a parent wants to argue with me about something, I'm like, no, this is what I think. Feel free to call and chat with our team physician. And ultimately they have final say. So we've run into that before where, well, I found some doctor down the road that cleared me from this concussion that you said I had, that it's been 2 days. And I'm like, that's great information, and we'll add it to but our team physician has put a hard stop on here's what we're doing and why. And then having that backing from the school as well, that if our team physician has said no, our school isn't going to take any other form of medical clearance.
Megan, that's such a good point.
Excellent point. Yeah.
I was just going to hop on that. So it segues
nicely.
Nicely.
Go for it, CJ.
Megan, it's a really good point. Like you are ultimately beholden to your supervising physician. I don't care who you're employed by. It's the law. It's part of our certification, licensure, whatever it may be. We operate under the license of a physician. So ultimately, that's who we're beholden to. I don't care what my athletic director, if I'm employed by them, says I'm doing. I'm doing what the physician's orders say I'm doing and what my best practice says, like that. So the medical side, completely separate. I like how Ryan put that in his contract. That's something you can advocate for. If you are in that situation, there's your advocacy. That's where you can start. Also, when you're having those discussions with your athletic director, in a perfect world, it's great. Any medical decisions and communications and discussions, that's my realm. There's a very, very gray line between, Megan, I got this note from a doctor saying I should be cleared. You're not letting me be cleared. Okay, AD sees, okay, physician says no, Megan says no, cool. But hey, Megan, the parent really complained about how you addressed it and how you were combative, and they didn't appreciate that. And you upholding that can come across a certain way, even if you're not. Like, I think we all know, just saying no, even in the most polite way, can just turn some people, like it can just trigger some people. Absolutely. So I think having that physician in those meetings with your ADs and say, okay, no, but here's why we have to speak this way. We have to be stern. We have to be concise. We can be professional. Absolutely. And if you're not being professional in those conversations, that's a different conversation that needs to happen. But if you're having those conversations of, like Ryan said, employee performance, how you're communicating with parents, have your physician come into those meetings with you so that when you say, hey, AD's name, I have to be stern on this. I cannot let them return to practice without a note from a doctor for this concussion or without a note from a doctor for this injury. That it's not a negotiable item. Like, it's a hard stop. Your physician can back you up. They say, no, we have to communicate that sternly, because I've ran into that where my AD is like, well, you need to just have a conversation. Let them be heard. I'm like, I can't. This is a hard stop. They cannot go back to play with a concussion without a doctor's note, without clearance, and go through return to play. And then that turned into, well, you're not listening to people. You're not being, you're being combative, when in reality, I'm doing what the law and my physician says I have to do, but it comes across a certain way. So have your physician in there to have your back, because ultimately that's who you're beholden to. That's who you answer to. That's who you work under in coordination with, alongside, yada, yada. Everything else can kind of be a discussion with your AD aside from that, but there are certain conversations that we have to be stern with and use those providers to help you, back you up on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one real kind of quick takeaway before jumping over to Katie, oftentimes, I'll use our medical director in the opposite, where a kid may have an ankle sprain, go to the urgent care and be restricted for 2 weeks for an ankle sprain. And
Yeah.
we'll be able to get them in with our medical director and have that ruling overturned, where now the care is transferred back to me as the athletic trainer, do rehab, and return to play is now in my hands. So setting yourself up properly with a medical director can truly be advantageous to how you're running your sports medicine department. Katie?
Yeah, I think it's all about backing yourself up with the right people, right? I
Mhm.
think that's ultimately what we're saying here. I've had the same oversigning physician for years, and there's never a question anymore. And if I say something maybe out of pocket to a parent and the AD has to back me, he goes, "Hold on, what did she say to you versus what did you hear her say to you?" Um,
Well, that's a great
Experience
way to
goes a
phrase
long
it.
way in that category, right? Because Megan's not jumping on somebody if they didn't jump at her first. Like, that's the world it is, you know? There's no part of me who's like, oh yeah, Megan's out there just acting out of pocket at parents, right? It's someone came at you hard and you had to give them a hard stop. You said no. What was the reason you said no? And conversations get out of hand that way. So I think it's having that support. I know when I go to talk to a parent that I'm backed 100% in what I say. And so a lot of times it's not that crazy conversation where someone's saying something they shouldn't. It is, this is the answer, and you learn it from experience, but it's this this is the outcome that we're looking for. We're all looking for the same outcome, so this is my process. And when you have the right people in place to back you, it makes a big difference, which is why, again, the medical model makes the most sense. But having people to lean on too, hey, this situation got spicy, how do we bring it back down next time? What did I say wrong? How can I handle it different? Is is getting you off that island when you have people to call and talk to. And I think that's one of the changes we're trying to make, right? This committee specifically is trying to get people off their islands. If you need help with a situation or how to handle it, or this situation keeps coming up, what do I have to do to change it? Well, it's a matter of communication all the time, but how do you fix it is
Mhm.
who are you surrounded with who can help you make this conversation easier and put the protocols in place so it doesn't keep happening.
Yeah, because one of the biggest issues that we have is people just don't know a whole lot about what athletic trainers are. So having that communication and having those discussions, like that parent she may be mad at you because all through middle school football, she was able to get a doctor's note from whatever, and it was fine, fine, fine. And then she gets to high school, and all of a sudden, you're telling me I can't do this anymore. Who are you? I've never heard of an athletic trainer, whatever. So that's all part of advocacy. It's letting people know. Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. Katie actually teed it up well, going into our next few topics. Isolation, she mentioned being on an island, being isolated and having very little medical support. And then CJ just sprinkling the cherry on top with, a lack of understanding of what ATs are and their scope of practice. I want to open it up to the group here on the call with us about those two. How do you address being isolated with very little, outside medical support? And how do you also address that communication with the parents or with student athlete, or even, let's be honest, with our coaches sometimes on the scope of practice that you have? So Katie, Celty beat Katie to the punch. So
Oh my
Celty,
goodness.
yeah, Celty, let's hear what you have on that topic, and then
Impressive.
immediately after, Katie will turn it over to you. And if we ever get Megan back, I know she had a follow up uh, on our previous talk, and so we'll swing the pendulum back her way. Celty, take it on.
I think this has always been like a huge soapbox for me. It's the communication. It's getting in front of people. It's getting those face to face. I was constantly like the very small amount of medical help that I did have, or the relationships that I needed to have. I was constantly like, hey, want to go get a cup of coffee? Hey, when do you have an open appointment that I can come talk to you? Hey, here are all my forms. I would love to sit down and discuss them with you so that we're on the same page, because ultimately, the safety of the kids. So even with like the parents and doing all of the preseason meetings and making sure that Not only was there a main athletics meeting where they were registering and everybody got to know like what we were looking for, what information we needed, what the expectations were, but then doing individual season meetings and being like, hey, I know you've heard this, especially in small school when every kid is playing 25 sports. You're getting that information out there frequently and you're just kind of almost bombarding where it's like, okay, you're going to hear this now, you're going to hear this again, and guess what? It's 4 more years of this. And if you have other kids, you're looking at another 2, 3, 4 years of that. You're going to get a lot of face-to-face time with me to know what the expectations are. And because there's so many times where people will sit there and they don't read the bulletins. I can get on we had a ton of social media presence with, like, I had an athletic training Facebook page that was getting information out there. People aren't looking at everything. And so the more that you can do that in person, face to face, or just putting that information out there on multiple platforms, the more it's going to reach people. And then you don't have necessarily that combative misunderstanding of where they're like, no, you just want to set us back. No, you just don't want my kid to play. And you're like, no, actually our shared goal is for your kids to play safely. And we're really looking at not just now, we're looking at the future. And as much as you think they're going to be the next, John Elway, maybe we need to have a conversation about actually, playing intramural football might be where they are, and to keep them involved, but also have a good experience and be able to excel later in life. And so I think a lot of what we do is just really getting that quality time in front of our medical professionals, our other athletic trainers, coaches, parents, and the kids especially. Like, I would do meetings just with the kids, with teams, individual teams, so that they knew what the expectation was. It wasn't just coming from their parents.
And I think that's a great point. I think every single time you get in front of the kids, the parents, the coaches, I can 100% guarantee you there will always be a new person in those meetings, whether it's a new athlete, freshman coming in, new parents, new coaches. Start off every one of those conversations explaining what an athletic trainer is and what your role is. Because again, a lot of people don't know that. And if you just come in saying, we need this, I'm in charge because you are, and we are very smart and we're very good at what we do. If you don't take that time to set the stage, people aren't going to understand who you are. And that's a little advocacy you can do just every single time you have those meetings. Like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm talking to my volleyball team. I'm an athletic trainer. In case those of you who are here aren't aware what an athletic trainer is, here's what we do. Here's our scope. And Celty, I'm curious, just as an aside, before we throw it over to Katie, you're in the clinical setting right now. That's such a cool opportunity. Like, do you introduce yourself when you meet with the patient? Say, hey, I'm Celty. I'm an athletic trainer who works with so-and-so. Cause I feel like that just opens people's eyes of like, wow, athletic trainers do that. They are the first ones to see the patient, and then they inform the physician of what's going on and all that. So do you introduce yourself that way? And if so, what kind of reactions do you get to that?
100%. So whenever I come in, because I run a couple orthopedic surgeons, and so every time I go into a room, I'm saying, hi, I am Dr. So-and-so's athletic trainer. I run his clinic, and and it's funny because this is a topic of discussion often, because I'm actually the only athletic trainer in our building.
Oh, wow.
In our campus, I'm the only athletic trainer. So it's always fun when they're like, well, how do I get a hold of you? And I'm like, just ask for the athletic trainer. You're going to get
that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
It is one of those where it is trying to, I get at least probably once a day where somebody will go, oh, well, I don't need to be trained. Or,
Wow.
that's great. That's who you are. But I don't think I need that today. And I'm just like, or are you here training the doctor? Yep. Like, are you keeping them in shape? And I'm like, yeah, sure I am.
Oh my gosh.
Keeping them, but it's a good opportunity when I sit there and I can put it in the plainest terms and say, hey, what sports do you watch? Do you know the cool fanny pack person running out there to evaluate an injury or evaluate a situation in which there's a sports injury, and then that person that takes care of those people and has an extensive knowledge of kinesiology and sports medicine? That's what I am. And then I get somebody who goes, oh, I didn't know that they worked in the clinic. I thought they worked on sports teams, or they just were in the college. So that has been kind of cool. And especially, like, I don't work with, it's mostly adults that come in. Very rarely do we get kids that are coming in with my orthopedic specialists. But it's nice when I do have like those kids that got hurt playing a sport and I'm like, hey, I'm their athletic trainer. And I do get that sense of relief from parents who are like, I know who you are. I know we're in the right place because this happened during a sports injury or during a sporting event. And now I know that, hey, I'm in the right spot because I have somebody who I recognize that helps in our setting. And so I get that. And then I have actually one of my physicians, when I help him, he introduces me and he says, this is Celty, she's my athletic trainer. She's a very valuable part of my sports medicine team. And it's amazing. It is like the most incredible feeling just to be recognized by somebody who, that makes the patients have so much respect and totally trust coming. They don't even know who he is. He's coming in. They already trust him. And now he's bringing me on and saying my name, saying my title. And then that transfers some of that trust and respect. And it's a pretty cool thing, but it's definitely, I feel like I thought going into the clinic that maybe there'd be a little bit more where I'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm an athletic trainer. And they'd be like, oh, okay, great. And I still get that where people are like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Like, I'm in pretty good shape. I think I'm fine. And I'm like, okay, great, let me get out for you. But it's definitely an opportunity for more advocacy and education, just in general for the public, for general orthopedic patients, and just the more people that know what we do, if they hear that later on, they're going to be, it's like we talked about talking to the kids, they're our biggest supporters. So once we do good for them and they know what we do, they're going to be the ones who actually are fighting our battle for us in certain ways, to where somebody says, oh, that you go see the athletic trainer, like, why do you do that? And the kid goes, oh my God, I wasn't able to play. My ankle was size in soccer ball, whatever. And now I'm playing again because Celty or my athletic trainer did this. And so they're our biggest advocates.
Absolutely.
Patient.
You know, Celty, before I throw it over to Katie, I do have a specific question for you, being that you're in the clinic right now. That was my first role for the first 2 years. Coming out of school was working in the clinic and in the surgical setting. I'm curious, what is your take on the name athletic trainer versus alternate names like physician extender or something along those lines?
I feel like that's going to be a hot topic.
It is. That's why I'm asking it. We're allowed to do hot topics on this podcast.
I think I don't think nobody's heard this before, but unfortunately, having the name athletic trainer, just automatically people assume that we're into personal training, and
they dumb us down.
And that's the majority of when I do have people that when I come in, they're like, oh no, that's not. And I have to then pivot a little bit and say, oh, actually, I'm like an orthopedic nurse, because that's how I act in the clinic setting. That's kind of where I'm at. And so then they understand. But yeah, I do think that unfortunately with our titles that it doesn't help us in explaining what we do. There's already a stigma of that we're actually there just to get people in shape, and unfortunately that's not what it is.
Yeah, I felt like you would have a pretty similar response to what I had coming out of the clinic. I saw Megan immediately shoot up with a response to, I'm guessing, this question. Megan?
Well, I don't want to derail. It was actually way back.
Oh, okay.
I have a response to this question.
Okay,
though.
let's hear
Katie
Katie, and then we'll circle on to you, Megan. Katie, fire it away. I saw your message, Katie. You're like, go to Megan. I was like, well, okay. So yeah,
I know, but that was before before you asked a triggering question that I needed to weigh in on.
Well, go for it. This is the hot topic question.
So I possess both certifications. So here I am as a nightmare, right? Going, trainer means nothing to me because I have CPT, CSCS, and my athletic training, and I will 100% tell you I'm an athletic trainer first, and it doesn't matter to me. My response to that is I am happy to educate people about what I do. But my number one thing that I tell people, and I introduce myself, I'm Katie, I'm an athletic trainer. I don't let my teams call me trainer. I also don't let them
Yes.
call me medic, and I don't let them call me doctor. For whatever reason, they like to throw doc in, right? They're like, oh yeah, Katie, she's our team doc. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm an athletic trainer. Calm down. But 100% of the time, like we are a very individualized group and have very special skills in the athletic world in sports medicine. So a lot of times I will shift and say, I run sports medicine. That's truly what I do because it is a medicine. It's not just training. Um, but my realm is everybody that I've ever worked with knows who Katie is and what she does. And it's not one thing or another thing. It's everything. If you have a question, go to Katie. She'll find you an answer. So I just think it's hard to define the profession into two words, but it's a big educational piece for people. So when they're like, oh, this is Katie, she does everything, I'm an athletic trainer. That's why I do everything, because we are the Swiss Army knife of healthcare professions.
Man, I stepped away for 2 seconds, and this was the point I wanted to talk about, and I come back and yell full on the soapbox. Like, this is
It's
one of my
fault. You
biggest
should have
pet
known that,
peeves.
CJ.
I cannot. I hate the fact that we have trainer in our name and that it's synonymous with who we are. Because if you think about the degree level, who do we compare ourselves to? Physical therapists, occupational therapists. Like, we do not associate with personal trainers. Like, we're allied healthcare professionals. Like, that is my biggest pet peeve. I would love to see us go like something that Canada has, like athletic therapist, or Ryan said physician extender. But I cannot stand trainer. I actually have like the NATA list of athletic trainer, not trainer, on my wall in my old ATF. And I would have kids, if they called me trainer, I'd be like, nope, turn around, pick a bullet point from top and bottom. And I want you to read each one out loud enough so everyone can hear you. And then they would start calling each other out on it. And they'd be like, oh, you called CJ trainer, go read a bullet point. Like, athletic trainers have a master's degree, and then they'd read another bullet point. Trainers do not have a master's degree. They have a certification and a high school degree. I'm like, okay, thank you. You may go now. And they would like they'd keep each other accountable. And it was great, but it drives me nuts because immediately if you hear trainer, you don't know what I do. You have no idea the full scope of everything I do. But if you hear, like, if I just say athletic therapist, you know exactly what I do. I'm a therapist that works with the athletic population. I don't have physical therapists can't do everything that occupational therapists do, and vice versa. We can't do everything that they do, but it better portrays what we are. And I feel like and I get it. There's a legal aspect to it. We can't reopen the, sorry, I'm just hijacking this right now. I'm on my own soapbox. We can't reopen the legislation and the practice acts and all that stuff, but it's just an uphill battle, and it will continue to be an uphill battle, I feel like, until we can get that straightened out, because everyone who hears of us for the first time will always have that initial thought of, oh, this is what they are. And it's not. We have to like educate them every single time. So I'm gonna hop off my soapbox now and throw it back to Megan.
Ryan had a good point when you hopped off of, it'll be interesting to see how you feel about it once you shift to the clinical model. And do you feel like a physician extender is a more appropriate name? And I think that's one of the interesting things with our profession as a whole and where we're going, is that we are becoming so multifaceted that how do you come up with a name that truly encompasses everything we now do as a profession?
I mean, I think athletic therapist really fits it well, because then we don't lose the athletic part of it. I love physician extender, but actually, I love physician extender because it does.
What is
Yeah.
happening?
I mean, the
It
way
does
it was
tie in
described to
everything.
me on the East Coast is we extend the services of a physician. And, if you think about how our licensure is, we work under the direction of a supervision of a physician, or under a supervising physician. By extent, that's extending the services of a physician, because technically and legally, we can do anything the physician approves us to do, as long as we've had certification and training on that. So, I don't have to hold a surgical degree to go into the operating room as a athletic trainer if I've been trained and approved by my supervising physician to do whatever they're asking me to do in the OR. And that's just an example. So I don't know how everybody else feels about that. Katie's got her hand
Yeah.
raised, so let's hear it, Katie. Oh,
she's working on some technical stuff. Podcast.
okay.
I'm throwing podcasts onto the bus right now. You guys can.
Yeah.
But that's a good point. I think the main issue that we have though is opening up the practice acts, because if we want to rebrand to something that's more applicable to what we do, then we have to open all that. I think the problem that we fall into is we are very quickly getting into a sunk cost fallacy where, oh, well, it's just too hard to change it. Okay, well, yes, I understand that. I understand the funding that we have and all that's very limited. But I think the best thing for our profession, this is coming from my possibly naive small bubble view, but I think the best thing we could do is to move from that to something that's more to what we are. And I think that would move our profession further. Like, let's say it takes 5 years to get that process, get the funding, all that. The amount of movement we'd have in our profession recognition and understanding from the public would outweigh like probably 10 years of advocacy. I mean, we've been doing 10, 15 years of advocacy. I don't feel like we're any more recognized by the public. Yes, by providers. They all want athletic trainers in their clinics. But for the profession or from the public, I don't think we've really made huge strides despite all this advocacy efforts we've put. And I feel like, yes, it will put us back in the short term, but in the long term, I think we'll surpass the advocacy efforts that we could do in the meantime, just by putting our heads down and getting that change going.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are caveats that I think the larger population may not be aware of. Things like, how third-party reimbursement would work, retitling everything from a national level down, including all of those factors. That would obviously play a huge role in renaming the profession. But I do agree. I think at some point, a rename may be needed. I know Megan has some thoughts on this as well as Katie. Megan, let's start off with you. What thoughts do you have on this topic?
Yeah, I would say this kind of ties back in with what Jeb talked about a little bit, and people who are or aren't involved yet want to have a voice in voicing their frustration about what is happening with the profession and things like that. That these are ways, and I will fully admit, I stepped away from being a member from everything for a while, and it was sort of that like, where's this going, and how does it benefit me, and very closed-minded ability to look at things. But now coming back into it, it's like seeing that putting funding behind those things is the only way these things are going to change. So I can sit on my own little island and be mad that we don't have the advocacy we need, or we want to, we're frustrated about our name. But if we're not getting involved, putting our money where our mouth is, helping the pack, things like that, then these changes are never going to happen. And we're just going to continue to stay on our own little island and be frustrated.
Yeah, very well said. Katie?
I think it's important to point out that the NATA is working hard on this, right? Like I hear you, CJ, but like they've got the broadcaster saying athletic trainer now. It's making progress. And so I stand maybe isolated in this group alone, where I'm like, no, don't make me re-educate my family on what to call me. They know I've spent the time.
They know what to call you, but did they know what you do? Mine still do not.
Yes. Listen, I have a friend, she's an engineer. I will stand on principle. She will educate the general public every time she's out in it. If there's a football game on, she's like, no, that's an athletic trainer. I know, because my best friend is one. And so I am passionate about this, in case you're shocked. I know, everybody here. Wow. But I will stand on that soapbox all day, and I will continue to say it. And I say it, and we can jump back to this, but oh man, the amount of times where, yes, I'm a high school athletic trainer and I educate everyone about it all the time. If you have ever been in my athletic training room, you have heard me say, but what do I know about it? I just have a degree in this. And I am a nerd, and I don't like to. I'm going to jump back to topics that we've and I'm going to stand on my soapbox because you let me have a microphone. And here we are. I feel so strongly about this.
Well, I think, Katie, you
high school
represent
athletic
the
trainers,
old guard. Yeah.
I do. We have so much.
The OG.
Okay.
The OG.
Listen, we're going to take a breath. We're going to slow down as we speak so all of you hear me say this so clearly.
Post
First of all,
edit. Get
I
ready.
recognize that I don't fit in the early and emerging professionals category anymore, although there are times where I feel like maybe I should. But I have stood on this principle for so long. I do so much continuing education. I have too many letters after my name at this point to count. And that is because I spend time to make myself a good athletic trainer. And this is why I am passionate about it. I know so many things. So if you come at me and say, well, I'm a better professional than you because I have X, Y, and Z degree. Cool. So do I. I know more than you because I played this sport. No, you don't, because I've studied it. I feel so strongly about athletic being in the name, and trainer might be the other side of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've spent so many years educating on what the athletic trainer is. I don't want to lose it because everyone in my life knows what it is. And so, and my coaches know, right? Like, that's the thing. It's not just my family that I educate. Everyone around me learns it. And I'm the first one to say that I make the mistake and I let trainer and training room slip all the time. But my high schoolers will correct me on it. So there is that world of saying, like, I say it so often that other people correct me when I make the mistake. So I am in the staying athletic trainer realm because I've spent time educating. And I think you will get the OG folks on board with that too, because they are spending the time, right? It's Katie Wallace in Colorado is not the one going to the NFL saying, please use our title correctly on TV, right?
Yeah.
There are people who are spending the time to do that. And so to me, keeping the name matters because we fought for it so hard to keep it already. I'm not against the thoughts on why to change it. And would it be easier? Maybe. But I think knowing the profession is growing, knowing it's progressing as it has over the course of the last few years matters. We are still a young profession, relatively considered, right?
Yes.
We are still, this is new. Sports progress slow, you guys. The research, and we talked about it on the icing little tidbit we did. It's slow, but it's progress. So it's just a matter of educating everyone around you. And I think it's important to be said. I will put that soapbox away.
Yes, this is why I wanted to poke Katie with this, OG, because it is important, though, for early emerging professions to hear the reasons behind why the OG wants to continue with athletic training and not change it.
Yeah, there is. Katie, you bring a really good point. I hadn't really thought about it that way. I always, whenever I get up on my soapbox, I always talk about sunk cost fallacy. And while we've been doing this for so long, it's starting to take root. There is a very real argument to say, hey, would a change to, like, let's say athletic therapists, what Canada has, would that be beneficial? Or are we just jumping the gun and we're getting there? We just haven't given it quite enough time. When are we reaching that breaking point of, is that going to happen the next 5 years, or could it take another 15 years for us to make that progress that we're currently getting? If it's 15 years, then I would say, well, okay, we might be better spent trying to change the name because that might get us further faster. But if we're only a couple, like 3, 4, 5 years away and the NFL is starting to use the correct terminology, we're making progress, then that's a totally different discussion of, okay, this is feasible. But it does come down. I don't care what any profession, any broadcaster, whatever says. If you are an athletic trainer and you are letting your athletes call you trainer, I'm going to be very blunt about this, you are doing our profession a disservice. I can't put it any more bluntly than that. Our profession needs your advocacy to call
I
us
would
the
go
correct
further
title.
than that, CJ.
Yes, I
You're
was
doing a
waiting
disservice
on it.
to everybody. Oh God! Listen, if you're letting high schoolers, if you're letting anyone not call you and not treat you as the profession,
right? Yes,
let it go. You're
We're
not
breathing.
a coach.
We're breathing. We're breathing. Listen, the next time someone comes at me, and we work at a high school, I'm not picking on anybody. The next time someone comes at me and says your high school trainer doesn't know anything, oh, you guys, the way my coaches now go after that person who says your trainer doesn't know anything about the knee, I don't need to be in the room anymore because they've heard me. They go off instead of me because how unprofessional about whoever that was that said it. And CJ, you're right. It's usually a trainer who has their whatever degree certification, it's not a degree, and they decide that they know more than I do about sports training. And now again, kids will correct them. Oh, Katie, yes, your master's degrees in strength and conditioning. Good try. But that it needs to be attacked professionally and
Yeah.
100% professionally. So when I say they get jumped on anymore, everyone I work with understands the education level I have and why they can trust me, right?
Yeah.
And so it's interprofessional education as much as it is individual education. So if that person says, "Oh, high school trainers don't know what they're doing," I'm the first person to walk in and be like, "Hi, my name's Katie. I'm the athletic trainer for XYZ high school. Let me give you some information on how I run the sports medicine program so that we can be on the same page." Politely, that goes a lot further than jumping on them and being like, "Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Let me tell you about what you don't
Yeah.
know what you're doing,"
Mhm.
right?
That
And I
was
hate
going to
when-
be
so
my
it's
point, Katie.
building
Yeah.
interprofessional relationships
Yes.
correctly.
Mhm.
And I
And
think
representing yourself right.
right.
Mhm.
And I think
Acting
it
like
gets
an athletic
lost
trainer. Yes.
somewhere in the chaos. We all want to be better than someone else. And
Yeah.
and I want to be the best I can be, but it's developing those relationships interprofessionally. Just because you're a PT doesn't mean you know more than a chiropractor or vice versa. Those aren't my profession. I don't know. I don't even know what you're taught in school, although I have a good idea. I'm not going to jump on them and be like, "Your chiropractor doesn't know what he's talking about." No, let's have a conversation about what he did. And again, I will say I feel like I've said this on a lot of um shows that we've had already, is don't depend on the kids to be your source of information. So when you say, "Okay, well, you went to the chiropractor today, what did they say? You went to the physical therapist today, what did they say? You went to the doctor today, what did they say?" And then they repeat back and it's not even close. You go, "Okay, who did you see? Can I talk to your parents? What I got to get the full story because now we've got more people on the team. I got to talk to the coaches, I got to talk to your parents. We all got to communicate and get back on the same page about this." And so it's this big hot topic, but it all comes back down to education and interpersonal relationships and how do we make it all work best.
And hold your kids accountable. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had kids come and be like, "The AT at this," or they could usually call them a trainer because they're trying to disrespect them. "At the game said this," and they didn't know what they were doing. They were a trainer. You're an athletic trainer. I'm like, no, we are all the same. Just I've probably had kids leave the school I was at and say that to other ATs, to be like, "Oh, the AT at that school we were visiting, he didn't know what he was doing." No, I communicate things differently. I might have said something they didn't want to hear. They might have had a question they didn't ask. Whatever it is, stop it right there. Be like, "Nope, they are qualified healthcare. They know what they're doing. I can promise you they know what they're doing." Hold those kids accountable and be like, no, you can't just pick and choose one of us you want to call an athletic trainer, which was a trainer. Like, we are all in this together. Okay, Megan, I think you're long overdue.
But I would piggyback off of that, what you just said, CJ, it sparked of, I have kids all the time that come back to me and are like, "Oh my gosh, you're so much better than the athletic trainer." And whether they verbiage or not, just that, like, they tape me differently or they don't know what they're talking about, and I think that goes a long way as a profession to go, "Thank you. I appreciate that you think I'm good at my job." They're good at their job too, just in a different way, and kind of encouraging those kids to be a little bit more open-minded about everybody does similar things just in different ways, and that's going to serve you lifelong if you can respect people across that board.
But that's a really good point. And every profession is going to have a different quality, right? There are going to be some athletic trainers that are really, really, really good. There are going to be some that can do more. And maybe listening to this and be like, "Man, I have slacked off." Like, we've all been there where we've been in a position where we're like, "Hey, I especially during the spring, I could have done more there. I could have done better. Yeah, I was dropping the ball." That's going to happen. But we have to keep on remembering, we have to pick up the profession. We have to keep on advocating and pushing forward. But yeah, Katie.
Well, Agree 100%, CJ. And I think self-evaluation is huge. Like, don't let the only evaluation be occurring being your boss evaluating your performance. You should be self-evaluating at all times. But to piggyback on what you were saying, is I lead conversations all the time with one, I send kids to another school's athletic trainer. I tell them who they're going to talk to, how long I've known them, that we're best friends because every athletic trainer I've ever met is my best friend. That's just how I am. But I lead them to that as, hey, this person is really good. And if they come back and say, no, they weren't, I tell them why they're wrong. Because we all have different educational backgrounds and our different strengths are our different strengths. And you don't see them every day. You're biased. I'm cool to you because you see me every day. That's the reason you think I'm the best, which is great. But there are also, you have to think about all other professions. There are A, B, and C students who passed school, they got through. So maybe that person's strength just isn't to be a type A crazy person like Katie is. And so maybe they run their rehab program the best it's ever been seen. And you guys see me do emergency care on the field. And those are two different realms because we
That's
have
a really good
so
point.
many different realms. So guess what? Even if they're a C student, they had their best, right? And the same with when we talk about PTs or chiropractors or whoever. Oh, I hated this place when I went there. Okay, maybe they were a C level and you didn't get the A level. Let's find an A level person for you to see in that case, you know? Or maybe their specialty isn't sports medicine. Maybe you saw a physical therapist who can treat a knee, but you didn't see a sports medicine trained physical therapist, you know? And so you have to consider everyone's different integrations and where they've come from to learn that. And so it's about uplifting everyone you speak about, and how and kind of how you let the other person perceive that profession when you talk about them, right? So it's not, oh no, your doctor sucks, right? Like, it's, you're not saying that, you're saying, oh, maybe you didn't see the right person for this, maybe we need to get you into this person instead. And it's not I'm better than them, it's I have more experience in this realm than they do.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Like, every AT is going to have their strengths and their weaknesses. And you could be a rock star in the OR and work in clinical, and you haven't covered a PRN football game in a couple years, and your ankle tape just wasn't that pretty. It had folds or whatever. And that perception of the kid was, you have no idea what you're doing. When in reality, you know a lot more about surgical interventions than I do. And like, I used to be at a small school. I dove really deep into rehab because a lot of my kids, it would take forever for them like to drive to get to a PT clinic. So I got really good at rehab. I might not be as good at other parts. Like, you can't be an A student on every single part of the job. It's just, you're going to have these almost specialties that you really get good at based on where you're at. I think it's a really good point, Katie.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we really have to become focused on patient care first. At the end of the day, you as the individual, you kind of just have to check your ego at the door, and really focus your attention on the patient. Everybody's going to have their own perceptions. Everybody's going to have their own thoughts and opinions. You know, really just kind of focus on what are the patient's needs? How can we educate the patient to enhance the profession? But, at the end of the day, what's going to get this patient better and leave a positive impact for their future that highlights and promotes and benefits the field of athletic training?
I'm gonna piggyback on Katie's point, but I feel like, yeah, the profession itself is just expanding to different just route and same under same name.
Yeah, yeah.
That's exactly what how we were growing too as athletic trainers, and also like um this is probably like secondary school setting for sure. Like, you'll be able to have one athletic trainer that's for some um area of Colorado that's lucky, and that's another part that if we have two athletic trainers, are they gonna pick and choose out of those two, or like college setting for sure, like you will be assigned to a athletic trainer, but
Mhm.
there are 5 athletic trainers total.
Yeah.
Yeah, like those, like I guess haters gonna hate in it, but but at the same time, like people can choose. They will have a second opinion of a doctor. Like you have a
Mhm.
choice to do that as well. One thing uh, might be kind of off topic, but like um, where you guys working at Children's Hospital, you have floater and dynamic. Is that a position?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Um, they'll be able to export to those athletic trainers, not just going to away games. And that's another, in a way, the system making it a little bit more exposure to the athletic trainer for the students that they have. That's kind of what I thought of when I was listening to. I need to head out as well soon, but yeah.
Oh, I appreciate your point of view. Those are good points. I love the haters gonna hate. You cannot make everyone happy.
Yeah,
Like,
I think you
it's
should
just not
isolate
possible.
that.
Don't. That will be our promo.
I love it. Katie, do you have a follow up on what Miyamoto was talking about? And real quick, Katie, Miyamoto is correct. Athletic training is in multiple realms, and I think that's lost on some athletic trainers who are only in the sports realm. I've worked in the industrial setting and now in the consulting setting, and it really is difficult. I remember as an industrial athletic trainer, it's difficult to talk to employees and have them understand what you do, who you are. As much as I tried, and you educate over and over and over again, the way that they relay it to their coworkers is, oh, this is our physical therapist, or this is our EMT, or, and so to Moto's point, I mean, it is a challenge, I think, when we look at every sector that athletic training is in. And at the end of the day, the name is neither here nor there. It's how we conduct ourselves as athletic trainers, how we represent the field of athletic training, and what expertise we bring to the table each and every day. Katie?
My brain is going in so many directions right now. I have so much to say.
What? Take it. Nobody
okay.
else has their hand
So,
up.
right. So Moto's totally right. I think it matters how much exposure you have to athletic training, and specifically secondary schools is wild. Because traditional setting, collegiate setting, they have one athletic trainer. They're with their team the whole time. In the secondary schools, we're with 7 programs all at the same time doing 1.5 million different things. Everyone's exposure to an athletic trainer is going to be so different from any other individuals, right? Like people see me on the football field and then they're like, "Oh wait, you work with soccer too?" And I'm like, "Yep, sure do." But and then they see, they're like, "Oh, but you're at this event. Oh, do you live at the school? You must live at the school." Which secondary school
Pretty
athletic
much.
trainers, we do in fact live at the school. That is, my office and bedroom are in the same place. It's fine. But that's it's kind of their exposure to the realm is, oh well, they just are just here all the time. And somebody else from outside, not in the high school, is going to have a totally different perspective on that. I will say, with the certifications I have, which is because I do have my EMT, I do have my strength and conditioning, I do have my certified personal trainer, and a number of others. I never put those in the same realm. So when I introduce myself, I don't say, well, athletic training is kind of a mixture of EMT and physical therapy, because it puts those words in their head and they know what those people do. I'm an
Yes.
athletic trainer. I do specific athlete care, individualized to the athlete I'm seeing. So if it's a soccer player, they get a needs analysis based on their sport, and we do soccer rehab. And if you specify it to each individual athlete, it's easier for people to separate it and go, oh, the knowledge base is for that whole realm, not just this one thing, right? I take care of an athlete from time of injury till time of return to sport, and there's no other profession that does that. So if you start leading with the correct conversations and don't tie yourself to other professions in that way, it's going to change the perception of your title. And so I think that's maybe my soundbite, maybe my takeaway is, as a secondary school athletic trainer, address yourself appropriately. You know more than a lot of others do, and you do a lot of different things, and Swiss Army knife of the professions. It is amazing how individualized your care becomes when you deal with all of the sports all the time and lift up your other professionals. Every athletic trainer is a good athletic trainer from this point forward.
Yep, that's something small you can do every single day to advocate. I mean, there's more. If you want to do more, please reach out to us. We will help get you in touch with CATA to help volunteer, and that can take you all different places. You can go from helping with CATA on one committee to another committee, to the RMATA, to the NATA, and then make impacts there. So every little bit helps our profession, helps us move forward. Don't downplay every single interaction you have, because you can make an impact in one kid's life, and then you can have your kids just like Katie's, where they start screaming at other people if they use the wrong term, and they're now your advocates. So I feel like they kind of like take on your personality, Katie, where they just like aggressively attack people because they see you do it. You're like, ah!
She will yell at you if you say it wrong, so I'll yell at you so that you don't get yelled at.
Yeah.
All right, Katie, grind my gears time. It's up to you.
I think we already got that.
Oh no, she held back. You
I was
need to
gonna
hit
say-
end on this recording and start another.
Here, I'm gonna mark it right here. Okay, I just put a mark at 30:25. You go off. What would you like to see our athletic trainers, no filter? What would you like to see them do to help to advance our profession that they're not currently doing? What do we need to do? Where are our shortcomings? How can we improve? Go.
You have to show up. You cannot sit in your corner and scream at the walls about how mad you are that the CATA isn't doing this. You cannot scream that the NATA isn't doing this. If you are not showing up for your profession, you are not helping the profession. If you are reading an article and being like, that's not it, but then you just sit quietly in your house, you're not helping the profession. If you're screaming, I need someone to tell my athletic director to do this for me, cool. Or I need CHASA to do this for me. That is not the answer. You have to do that. You have to show up, have the hard conversations, do your research, sit down, put your thoughts together, go start having the conversation. I'm happy to be the building block for that. You call me, I'll sit there and be a cheerleader in your corner 100% of the time. But you cannot be mad at those of us who are sitting in the positions to make the difference when you are not standing up with us. You cannot say, well, I want there to be a state law that says I get to do this, if you are not going to the legislature that day, if you are not calling your senator or your congressman to tell them that we need help. You are not doing it for us. You are just being mad at the people who are trying to do it for you. So stand up, do your research, put your time in to help the rest of us help you.
I can't tell you how many ATs I've heard complain about things that the state or national organization is not doing for them, or regional, yet they don't pay their dues. They don't spend any time doing it in profession. I'm like, I'm sorry, if you don't do any of those, you don't have a right to complain. We're here trying to help you. Like you said, get up, be active, try and be a change instead of just waiting for other people to do it for you. If you feel that adamant to complain, in especially in our professional setting, I've had people in meetings like kind of jump on this before, like, oh, they don't do anything for us. Well, you haven't done anything. Hop on, step up. Like, we are volunteering our time to try and advance the profession. You need to do your part. And if you have enough energy to complain about it, then you have enough energy to put a 5-second call to your legislator. And
Yes,
I'm not saying everyone's perfect. I'm volunteering on this committee. I haven't called my legislators. I need to get better at that. I want to actively get better about being involved in the governmental legislative side. But I'm working on to improve that. Don't just sit there and complain. Yeah, Ryan has. Don't sit there and complain and then expect other people to fix things for you. Become part of the solution. Hop on.
Yeah, you reach out to your legislator one time, And I'm telling you, you will always have a direct connection with them, because I haven't reached back out since that day on Capitol Hill, and I still get messages from his office, follow ups. I mean, it's impressive. I'm speaking for this legislator. I don't know if all legislators are this way, but to CJ's point, absolutely. Reach out to your legislator is the best way to get things in your state, in your area, accomplished. Katie?
And educate yourself on the topic you're mad about. I think that there's a big piece that comes from just not knowing the background, right? If you're in Colorado and you've got complaints about things, then you have to learn what the background on it is, because there was a time where I didn't know the history of the CATA and what accomplishments they've had or haven't had. And I think it's important to know, like, why we talk about a lot of things on this podcast, why the PPE form just happened, why helmets are just taking place, things like that are going on right now, and there's no history to it. Okay, well, we sit here and talk about what I need another athletic trainer at my school because my workload is so heavy because I have 700 athletes and I'm only one person. Okay, well, yeah, your 5A high school that has 700 athletes has one athletic trainer. There are another 60% of this state worth of high schools that don't even have an athletic trainer. So we got to talk about getting people in positions where we can continue to educate, and the board is working on that, and they're working hard on it. But again, when only a percentage of athletic trainers are showing up and willing to do the work, then it's only that percentage that can make that accomplishment. So yeah, you want us to go talk to these other organizations and you want us to have a hand in changing things. You have to show up too, because if only 2 people are doing the work, the workload is heavy and they have the same workload you do. So it's about making the decision to make the time to make the change.
Yeah, we have put in an entire year plus putting this podcast together to get you guys this information. We are all, or were when this started, secondary school athletic trainers. We are just as busy as you guys. Some of us come from smaller schools, some come from larger, but I think we all know that if you come from a smaller school, you can find enough stuff to do to make yourself just as busy as a big school. You can always be finding more stuff to do. We all have full schedules. We have put in so much time. Not to toot our own horns, episode.
Yes. Good plug.
Yeah. I don't want to toot our horns too much, but we've put in a significant amount of work getting this thing running and getting all this information out to you. We are doing the same amount of work in our jobs as every other athletic trainer in the secondary school setting. If there's more people helping, each person's workload goes down and we can get more done. If you're that frustrated, do something about it. Come help. We need the help. The entire organization. I think people think this whole organization is run by hundreds of people. There are 20 maybe that are consistently getting.
Yeah.
I actually don't know how much it is, but I know the people that we've had normal interactions with, it's not a huge number, and they're doing the majority of the lift. We need more help. If we have everyone,
and they're not getting paid.
Yes, exactly.
Volunteer.
Yeah. So this is the tide that rises all boats. Advocacy for our profession is something that helps everyone. I don't care what setting you're in. I don't care what your salary, I don't care about any of the details. It helps all of us. So please help, even if it's just to reach out. Hey, I don't have time to serve on committee. It sounds like you guys are doing a lot. We are, because we're overachievers. Even if it's something of, hey, how can I help? And we can direct you and say, hey, we really need some help with this, or contact this person, or hey, contact this, or do this. There's always something to be done. Just please reach out and help.
Well, and I think it's important to say you don't actually have to agree with us either, as long as you're showing up. Because then if you hate what I had to say, then show up and voice your opinion. Because if my opinion's the one being voiced, then here we are. And silence is agreement. Agreements. That's not the right word.
Agreement. So far, everyone has agreed with everything we've said, except for one person. So we're killing it. Any other thoughts on this, or are we good to wrap it up?
I think you better wrap it up, because the editing for it is going to be insane.
Okay, everyone, that'll do it for today. Thank you so much for listening. As always, please follow, subscribe, whatever that stuff is on whatever platform we are. I think Spotify, 1 or 2 YouTube followers. So if you're on that, follow us, please. And leave us a message. Our email's in the description. We love to hear from you guys. As Katie said, we can't really help you guys if we don't hear from you. So please send us your thoughts, whether you agree, disagree, have something we didn't talk about you want to have addressed. Please reach out. If you want to help, we're always looking for people to help. So please reach out. We'll help put you in touch with someone, because I know advocacy is something that's close to everyone. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Take care.